Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Bhajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Rama Rama, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari, Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Mr. Bad Paramahansa Pradikacharya Astottara Srimad. His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Mr. Bad Paramahansa Pradikacharya Astottara Srimad. His Divine Grace, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Kuntaraj srimadbhagavatam ki jai. Samaveda bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Janardhan Das, can you put Prabhu's book up? Thank you. Oh, that's right. Narayam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayanavirye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should offer our respectful obeisances unto Lord Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, and to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and then to Srila Prabhupada, the translator, commentator, and our spiritual master. Nashta prayesha badreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavatyuttama shloke bhaktim bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering devotional service to the pure devotee, all that is inauspicious within the heart is destroyed almost to nil, and loving devotion to the Supreme Lord who is glorified in transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Okay, sorry. On this 13th day of November 2017 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. And we are in the third canto, the status quo, chapter 27, Understanding Material Nature, text number 17. Devahutiravacha Purusham Prakatir Brahman Navamunchatikarhichit Anyonyapashrayatvacha Nityatvad anayo Prabhu Devahutiravacha Purusham Prakatir Brahman Navamunchatikarhichit Anyonyapashrayatvacha Nityadvadhanayo Prabho Devahutiravacha Purusham Prakatir Brahman Navimunchadikarhichit Anyonyapashrayatvacha Nityadvadhanayo Prabho Devahutiravacha Purusham Prakatir Brahman Navamunchatikarhichit Anyonyapashrayatvacha Nityadvadhanayo Prabho Devahutiravacha Purusham Prakatir Brahman Navimunchatikarhichit Anyonyapashrayatvacha Nityadvadhanayo Prabho Devahutiravacha Purusham Prakatir Brahman Navimunchatikarhichit Anyonyapashrayatvacha Nityadvadhanayo Prabho Devahuti Uvacha. Devahuti said, Purusham, the spirit soul. Prakritihi, material nature. Brahman, or Brahmana. Na, not. Vimunchati, does release. Karhichit, at any time. Anyonya, to one another. Apashrayatvat, from attraction. Cha, and. Nityatvat, from eternality. From eternality. Anayoho, of them both. Prabho, O my Lord. Translation. Sri Devahuti inquired, my dear Brahman, does material nature ever give release to the spirit soul? Since one is attracted to the other eternally, how is their separation possible? Please repeat. Sri Devahuti inquired, my dear Brahmana, does material nature ever give release to the spirit soul? Since one is attracted to the other eternally, How is their separation possible? Purport. Devahuti, the mother of Kapila Dev, here makes her first inquiry. Although one may understand that spirit, soul, and matter are different, their actual separation is not possible, either by philosophical speculation or by proper understanding. The spirit soul is the marginal potency of the Supreme Lord, and matter is the external potency of the Lord. The two eternal potencies have somehow or other been combined, and since it is so difficult to separate one from the other, how is it possible for the individual soul to become liberated? By practical experience, one can see that when the soul is separated from the body has no real existence. And when the body is separated from the soul, one cannot perceive the existence of the soul. As long as the soul and the body are combined, we can understand that there is life. But when they are separated, there is no manifested existence of the body or the soul. This question, asked by Devahuti of Kapila Dev, is more or less impelled by the philosophy of voidism. The voidists say that consciousness is a product of a combination of matter, and that as soon as the consciousness is gone, the material combination dissolves, and therefore there is ultimately nothing but voidness. The absence of consciousness is called nirvana in Mayavad philosophy. Om jnana timirandasya jnananjana shalakaya chakshu unmilatam mena tasmai shri gurave namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So we can relate to this question. I can. It seems on the material plane, it seems, well, how can the spirit soul be separated from the body? Because all we know of our existence is in the body. If we think of ourselves, we're thinking of activities in the body, thoughts by the brain, and so many things. So how can I have an existence separate from the body? Doesn't make any sense. In fact, most people don't even think that there is a soul. At least they act that way. That just one spot life is all there is, and they're going to try to get as much money as they can and enjoy, and that or at least survive. And the existence of a life different from this body, that I will continue to live somehow, but the body will die, doesn't compute, because they have no standing they have no way of understanding that. So Devahuti is kind of expressing her, taking the role of a totally conditioned soul who is incredulous at this whole idea of transmigration, life after death, all of these different things. So, and it makes perfect sense, because at the present moment, one way or another, we're completely wrapped up in attractions or repulsions, which is just the flip side of attraction. It means you're thinking about it because it's causing you a lot of fear and disgust. That's another kind of attraction, another kind of involvement with things in the world. In myriad ways, family life, and my sons and a husband, the sisters, the third cousins who I don't want to see for Christmas, a million different ways that we're tied up with this material world. And so it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't seem possible that we can have an existence that's completely separate from this world. And so the acharyas, they always give certain analogies to help us try to understand. And one is the idea of the dream, the idea that every night we dream, and we may not dream every night, but we've all had experience of many different kinds of dreams. And in that dream, we're a different person. We can often be a different person, different relations, different environment. We often combine different things from our experience, but it creates a new reality. And while we're in the dream, that's our reality. We completely forget about our day life, our relationships, and a million different things. So we regularly experience how we can exist in a different kind of life without any involvement with our daily attachments and daily absorptions. And indeed, it's described that our day life is also a kind of a dream world. And the essential quality that makes it like a dream is its temporariness, ephemerality, if you will. The fact that we take, it's so important in every stage of our life, our present circumstances, what's impinging upon me, what do I want, who insulted me, who do I love, that's the most important thing. And then when you get a little bit older, there's the world situation, oh my God, there's a war impending, climate change, this is who I am, this is the world I live in, So when you get older, it's nice, you can look back 30, 40 years, and of course I've been in the movement 30, 40 years, but I go back to before I joined, and that whole period, from like 10 years old to 25, when I was very aware, I became more and more aware of the larger world and all of these big forces working in it. This is what I really have to concern myself about. This is what I should be, working for peace and civil rights and this and that, And other people have other perspectives. So, in such a circumstance, if someone were to tell me that all of this whole thing, your whole involvement with all of this is completely meaningless, doesn't make any sense. It's just shrama evi kevalam. It's a lot of effort you're putting in, and it has no result, and everybody's an illusion. I would have said, you're crazy. I'm trying to save people's lives, and this is the most important thing going on. The world situation and all this stuff. But actually, that's concerns, the Vaishnavas are concerned about that, but they see it as a symptom of the grand mistake, the grand illusion of the spirit, soul, and material life, which is that he's identifying with the body, and because of that, you're identifying with the family, and with the society, and with the race, and with the place you were born, and that's what causes all this dissension, is the false ego, which then is expanded in these ways to create militant false ego. Like I remember when the horrible thing happened in Yugoslavia, where it kind of split apart, and then you had the Serbs fighting the Bosnians. This was the early 90s. Some of you may remember that. It's probably too early for you. And Damodar Kumar. But anyway, it was I was reading about that, and the Muslims had invaded, in like the 1600s or something, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, and they took part of the land, and then they were controlling part of it, So now, these 500 years later, now we're going to get even, So many generations have come and gone, but they carefully passed on the sense of victimhood, This soul has now come into this body, and now has these parents, and it's trained up to identify with the larger clan and what happened 600 years ago and all this. It's a kind of madness. This is the different layers in which Maya can entangle you. And Devahuti says, how can one ever get out of this entanglement? Because the attraction has been going on since time immemorial. We're sitting here, all of us have a huge record of karma, and the form of body we have, the attractions, our weight, our language, everything is determined by all of this stuff, this karma. Now, of course, as devotees, that's all changing and under Krishna's control. But for the ordinary person that Devahuti is recommending, it seems to be a prison house or a situation that is impossible to fix. It's too deep. It's like you're deeply enmeshed in a vat of glue or something. How could you possibly get out? So that's what she's expressing here. And Prabhupada, he says that he's answering by practical experience. We see that at the time of death, and that's often a big wake-up call for people. That's a good time when they're receptive to hear this kind of transcendental knowledge. Because if nothing else, you see at that time, there's the body, but the person's gone. It's suddenly that's a great shock. It's certainly a shock to the person who died, but it's a shock to everybody else who knew them. I thought that the body's there, but the person's gone. But all these years, I've been seeing the body as the person. So now, that's when they can be. I remember when my father died, I was giving my mother some basic, verses, some basic instructions from Bhagavad Gita, and she was very receptive. Of course, what they really want to hear is that he's not really dead, is that he's, okay, fine, But the idea is that we, and Prabhupada mentioned that when the soul leaves the body has no real existence. Meaning that as a body, a body is a body when it has hands and legs. But what's the meaning of hands and legs? There's no soul in there. And very quickly burn it, you bury it. They're just. It's like the mannequin. Suddenly, doesn't it's not real hands, real legs. So we certainly see how the soul separates from the body at that time. But what we don't see is that the soul continues to exist as a person, as a unit of consciousness. And that will inhabit a new body, a whole new body, a new identity, new language, new family, new everything. So this, this understanding itself can help you become detached from material things, because you can see that it's just you're just deepening your illusion. And the process of bhakti allows us to become detached and realized even while in the body. I think it was last night. We were discussing this verse. Iha yasya harir dase karmanam manasagara. Maybe the previous verse. This is quoted in the Bhakti Samrita Sindhu. I think it's an original verse by Rupa Goswami, probably attributes to him. That for one whose every action of words and activities and thoughts are within the realm of service to Krishna, then such a person is liberated even while in the body. Liberation is not really, defined by leaving the body, because it's often thought, leave the body and go merge into Brahman. But liberation is a state of consciousness. You're liberated when you're no longer under the thrall of the material energy. That's the liberation. You're free of the powerful attractions and the fears and the pains. You're on a transcendental level. We see that with the great devotees in history. Haridas Thakur was put. He's a perfect example because both sides are displayed with Haridas. So famously, when he was just a young man, and he already was chanting 300,000 names a day, 192 rounds. He'd been born in a Muslim family, but he'd become completely enthralled by the holy name, and he's a pure devotee. So but he's living in the Muslim land there. He's living in the Bengal area. So they arrested him because the Muslims only wanted to go one way, and convert the Hindus to the Muslims by the sword. That's what they did. And so but they don't want to go the other way. If it's a Muslim becoming a Hindu, this is a great offense. It's a big crime because they're afraid that it'll be example. So they arrested him. You have the Qazi and the Nawab. The Qazi was the real bad guy. The Nawab, he was under the influence of the Qazi. So they arrest him. And they give him a chance. I don't know what it is, but there's some statement in the Quran which is a declaration of loyalty to Allah and Muslim. If you say that, you declare it, then you're declaring yourself to be a Muslim. So they said, okay, look, you were born in a wonderful family, but now you've taken on the practice of the heathens. So you can come back to this, if you declare this and stop chanting Hare Krishna. So first Haridas said, look, there's so many of the Hindus we converted to the Muslims, to Islam. What's the harm if one Muslim converts to Hinduism? So this they didn't like. Qazi became furious like that. And he said, you have to stop chanting Hare Krishna, we're going to execute you. And he said famously, I don't know the Bengali, but it's in the Chaitanya Bhagavat, you can cut me up into little pieces, but I'll never stop chanting Hare Krishna. And he said that with utter aplomb, In other words, he's completely relaxed, peaceful, which was amazing. And so then the Qazi pushed the Nawab to sentence him to execution. Now it said sometimes it said they sent him to be beaten in 22 marketplaces. No, they sentence him to death by beating, and they do it in the marketplace, so it's a public thing, so it scares everyone else off. from maybe doing that. Like the public hanging idea. But so he goes into samadhi. He was chanting Hare Krishna, and these two heavyweight, Muslims executed. They start beating him. Now, the Muslims weren't all, demons. Some of them were very pious. They were offering them bribes to stop beating them. They were pleading with them to stop. Many of them. But to speak of the Hindus also. But they knew that if they did stop, they would be executed. So they're going on beating. And Hare Krishna, Hare. And it's described he didn't feel a thing. Now it's also described that Lord Chaitanya was taking on the beatings on his back, and he showed it later on, amazingly. But the point is that Haridas was protected by his absorption. He was protected from the fear, and he was even protected from the pain. And there was no damage to his body. It's just like Prahlad. It's said that he's a portion of Prahlad as well as Brahma. I don't know if you know that. So it'll go on and on, 2 marketplaces, 5 marketplaces, 10 marketplaces. They're beating. And, 20 marketplaces. And he wasn't being harmed, and they were freaking out. They said, because if he didn't die, then they would be executed. So they made that known. And Haridas said, if I don't die, it's a problem for you, then I'll die. And he went into samadhi, where it looks just like death, So, after 22 marketplaces. So then they bring his body, so they thought, his body back to the Kazi. They're on the Ganges. And they said, well, what should we do with the body? Should we bury it here? And he said, no, because it'll become a place of pilgrimage. They'll revere him as a martyr. This will be not good. So just throw it in the Ganges, which is, the lowest burial. This goes down the river. So they did that, and as soon as he did that, he came out of his samadhi, swam to the other side, and started chanting Hare Krishna. Now they had told him, I think the Nawab told him, if you survive this, then we'll leave you alone. So after they said, okay, you can do whatever you want, because they realized that they didn't have, the power. So this is Haridas. So that's one side, where he was unperturbed by the greatest danger, horrible torture. The other side, twice it happened actually. There was an envious landholder, a Muslim guy, Ramchandra Khan, I think his name was, that he wanted to seduce Haridas and make him fall down, blacken his name. So he hired a couple of, he solicited some prostitutes to go and seduce him. But most of them said, no, because they may be prostitutes, but they have some piety. He said, we wouldn't do that, that's a great sin. He's a great sage, sannyasi, devotee. So finally one of them said, okay, for money. So Haridas would chant day and night, so he's chanting in his little kutir, young man at this time, 30 or less. And he's chanting. So she knows where he is. So she goes, and she does her thing, posing, like that. You're so handsome, I really want to be with you. It's described, she moved her body in such a way that even Brahma would have been attached. That's right. It's mentioned in the CC. So Haridas is chanting, and he stopped and he said, well, how can I help you? And she expressed her desire, and he said, I am so sorry, I'm in the middle of my vow. I've vowed to chant, was it 1 billion names, 100 million names, or something like that. 1 million names. This month. No, it's not 1 billion names. He's chanting 300,000 a day. I think it's 10 million. And I haven't yet finished the vow, but surely tonight I'll finish. So you just sit here. When I'm done, then we'll consort. I said, okay. So she's sitting there. He's chanting. She's waiting. He's chanting. So the sun rises. So she offers obeisances at least, and then she leaves because she's somewhat pious. So the Nawab, Ramchandra Khan, he said, what happened? So he says, well, he promised tomorrow. He said tomorrow. He was doing some chanting or other, but well, let me go with you. He said, no. One time we'll be together, and then you can come and arrest him like that. They had the plan. So the second night he comes back. So the same thing happens, by after like a couple of hours, she says, well, what's he going to do? So she starts chanting along with him. Have something to do. So next day Haridas, I'm so sorry. I'm still have a few rounds left, so you come back tonight, we'll show you. So the third night, she comes back, the chanting going on. Finally, she's purified. She's been chanting, she's been hearing pure devotee chant, and she's been doing some chanting. So finally she surrenders by the third morning. So I'm so sorry, this Ramchandra Khan, he hired me, and Harita said, I knew that, I knew all that, but I stayed here just for you, otherwise I would have left. So now, she's very silly. Now you just chant Hare Krishna, give up your, profession, don't worry about anything. I'll provide all, you need. You just get a little house and you plant Tulsi and you chant in front of Tulsi. And she became so famous, people would come and give her what she needed, just like the hunter that Narada purified. So it happened again later. Maya Devi herself came and did the same thing, and he was able to refute. So here's the example of someone who's so fixed in transcendence that nothing can perturb them, positive or negative. Both sides have to be there. And at that such point, you can say the soul is no longer conditioned by the material energy. It may be staying in the body and inspiring the body to work as a devotee, but you've achieved, more than liberation. But you've received mukti in bhakti. So that's a state of, the great devotees can achieve that, and that's going to be the answer when Kapila Dev answers. Yes, it's been going on since time immemorial. But that attraction, one is attracted to the other eternally, how is there separation possible? But it's not really eternally. It's not eternally backwards and it's not eternally forwards. It's artificial that the soul is attracted to a configuration of matter called this body in this whole world. It's simply a reflection. It's just like a child gets attracted to the reflection and forgets about the reality. But actually this whole world is made of that. The toys, the entertainment, all the things, they're just shadows of the reality. And we're completely enthralled with it, one after another. So Krishna consciousness means rejecting the shadow and the false reflection and becoming interested in the reality. Now at first, it's very vague. We don't know what it is. It says, Atato Brahma Jigyasa. Now, being a human being, you should inquire into Brahman. What is Brahman? Spirit. We may even define it as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, but we don't know what that means. So therefore, we need ways in which we can contact that all-attractive personality to attract us away from this material world, and that's Krishna's mercy. He comes in such a way. He comes as the holy name. He comes as the avatar of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He comes as a Shakti-based avatar to attract us. And then there's the deity, there's the prasadam, the devotees, and the books, the accounts. All of these things, if we place our mind on them, if we force our mind, we take our mind away from the Maya and place it on Krishna, we will be attracted. But because we're so habituated the other way, it takes some time to cure the disease of material attraction. And that's called an Artha-nivritti stage. Ado Shraddha, there must be some faith. There must be an inkling of faith or interest, respect, to bring you into the association of devotees. Now in the modern age, that association can take place at a great distance because of media. And media means you can associate with something at a distance through the medium. And so the classic medium is the devotees and the spiritual master. That's Prabhu would call it the transparent via media. It's actually a transparent medium through which Krishna can interact with us directly. It seems indirect, but really when it's a pure medium, there's no distortion. And as well, in addition to that, so you come in contact with it, and the spark of faith is planted, or the seed of faith in the heart. Then what? Then there's something to do. If you don't act on the basis of this new knowledge, then it'll just recede away, and you'll be back in the thrall of the modes of nature. So the action, the main action is to chant. So that's why I said, Ado Shraddha tatak sadhu sangha ta bhajana kriya. The bhajana kriya means that you're maintaining your contact with Krishna through the holy name. Now, the material mind is wandering, taking away, so therefore it's an effort. That's the effort, to focus on Krishna. And the more we become focused on Krishna through His holy name and the expansions of the holy name, the temples, the deities, everything, the more we'll actually be attracted. But it's a struggle, because we're so conditioned, we're so habituated to forgetting Krishna and becoming attracted to it. So that's why there's all these rules and regulations. And in that, in that effort to follow, vidhi bhakti, vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Vaidhi simply means rules and regulations. Sadhana means practice. Means, practice means you don't do it perfectly yet, but you practice more and more and you improve. So that's called anartha nivritti, the section of anartha nivritti. And as you're becoming free of the anarthas, that stage can take as long as we let it take, according to our sincerity. It can take lifetimes, or it can be very quick, if we really intensely practice with strong desire. And to get through that, gradually, these stages kind of merge into each other. They're not mutually exclusive. Nishta, the Nishta stage, is the firm faith. That's the faith that's described by Lord Chaitanya to Sanatana Goswami. Shraddha Shabde Vishwas Kohe Sudridha Nishchoy Krishna Bhakti Kole Sarva Karma Krita Hoy. To be absolutely convinced that just by the activities of devotional service, all my goals will be achieved. I don't have to go outside. I don't have to do something else for my, whatever I need in my maintenance, I got to do it in a Krishna conscious way. And of course for, brahmacharis who are, fortunate enough to have fewer attachments, you can completely immerse yourself. You actually have a shot of doing it in one life, going back to Godhead. We should cash it in. A good chance. So, and from then the ruchi starts to increase, the taste. We hear about these things constantly. Just like last night I referred to a verse, or recently, Lord Chaitanya, Rupa Goswami's description of his experience of the holy name. It's a verse from the Bhagavatam Madhava, his play about Krishna's Vrindavan Leela. And he said, Tunde Tandavani Dating Vatanate Dandavali Labdaye. I don't know how much nectar these two syllables Krishna have produced. We're struggling to hear, and he's saying, why don't I have 1,000, 1,000,000 ears so I can hear better? I can really drink in the nectar. Why don't I have millions of tongues to chant? Imagine what taste he's getting. And there's so many descriptions like that, So the idea is that we've forgotten the real taste, we've lost the sensitivity. Our senses are too blunted by contact with matter. So we can't perceive the actual name, the actual form of Krishna. But the senses can be refined and purified by the process of bhakti. That's the whole idea. And then you can appreciate more. And intelligence is always involved. This is explained in the Bhagavad Gita, where it says, describing the samadhi in the 6th chapter, I think it's 20 to 23, something like that. That one experiences the transcendental pleasure through transcendental senses, but it's the intelligence is mentioned there. The intelligence is connected to the senses, and you can, the way that I think of this is that, okay, you hear a description of Krishna. It can be in your own language, it could be in Sanskrit, whatever it is. Now, what is your participation in that? You're hearing, but are you visualizing? Are you actually seeing in your mind's eye? We can do that. Just like you read a novel, the best novelist, I remember when I was a kid, Charles Dickens, master novelist, and it describes every detail, and you're there. You've forgotten you're sitting on your kitchen table. You're right there in London in the 19th century, going through all the emotions, and there's the, and so that's the material. What to speak of the spiritual? When we hear the descriptions of Krishna's Leela in Vrindavan, we should try to experience they giving fragrances and the colors and the sounds. That's the intelligence participating. Or you can just, read it rote and not really get into it too much. This is one of the problems of the present age. The senses have become dull because of all of the media, I mean, everyone's on the screen. That means they're not reading. This Marshall McLuhan, I mentioned him before. I don't know if it doesn't ring a bell. He was famous in the 60s. And I never read too much by him, but he had this famous phrase, the medium is the message. And he had the idea that hot and cold medium. I think the cold medium is one where it just flows over you. You're watching the movie, and it's all done for you. You don't have to use your imagination. A book is something where you have to participate, where you create the images in your mind and the experiences in your mind. And that's what we have mostly. When we read the Goswamis, it's all literature. Beautiful literature. I mean, the Sanskrit is attractive in itself, and it's describing the most attractive thing, but you have to make an effort to do it. So that sensitivity, where it's described, Kapila Deva will describe in this teachings to his mother. What is that? Madguna Shruti Matrena Sarvam Guhashaye Manogatir Avichinna Yata Gangama Sombatam. Means that the pure devotee, this is the definition, this is a symptom or characteristic. As soon as the pure devotee hears descriptions of my qualities, Kapila Deva speaking, immediately the functions of mind are completely absorbed. Just like the Ganges flowing into the sea. In other words, it's an unstoppable flow. The intention is completely drawn, and one can listen for hours, because it's that kind of enthralling, completely enthralling experience. That's the sign of we can train our mind to do that, but it means giving up the attraction for the other things. That's the idea. That's the hard part. That's the yama niyama. I looked this up because Suki was explaining Ashtanga Yoga at the lounge that I was sitting right next to him. And he had him switched, yama and niyama. Yama are the don'ts, niyama are the do's. In every discipline, there's always the don'ts. Well, the don'ts, you have to stop the nonsense, at least to start your process. So you have to, the don'ts are first. If you want to practice Krishna consciousness with any now, in Krishna consciousness it's kind of special. Anyone, anytime can chant. Doesn't matter what you're doing or who you are, everything, fine. But if you want to really progress in the chanting, you have to stop the sinful activities. Otherwise, it's a farce. You have to stop the gross sinful, the 4 regular principles. Those are our basic yamas. And the basic niyam is chant Hare Krishna. No illicit sex, intoxication, meeting, and gambling, and chant the holy name, 16 rounds. That's the vows you take for initiation. That's the yama and your niyama. So, this is often the biggest problem devotees have is with the yamas, is the giving up. We like to chant, we love the kirtan, all over the world people are chanting kirtan. But the seriousness of really stopping the things that are entangling us is often the problem that we have. So that's what Devahuti is explaining. How can you possibly get free? You can, because bhakti is so strong. Because Krishna is so attractive, it's possible that the soul can get free of the thrall of material energy. And that's what we're trying to do. Okay, it's past 8:30. Any comments, questions? Okay. And I'll leave you with one shloka. This is Kunti's prayers. And it's exactly pertinent. Tvayame ananya vishaya mati madhupate sakrit Ratamun Vahatara Dha Gange Bhaugamadhanvati. O Madhava, please ever fill my mind with thoughts of thee, not any other kind, as Ganges torrent flows into the sea. Let all my love flow constantly to thee. Hare Krishna. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Adorona.
Whoever goes into the audio closet class, make sure that door gets locked. doorknobs